with multiple agencies.
you're looking at about 2.2 million.
And that was
significant time at Michigan Department of Treasury, focusing on property tax. So what Rod did is he worked with our prior equalization director, Matt Hansen, and he captured about 15 years worth of equalization reports, plugged that into some data, and looked at what the trends were. They looked at property growth, they looked at housing, and came up with a really sophisticated methodology. So I'm going to transition right now to 26 to show you how accurate he was with the calculations. When we look at our special voted millages, so our law enforcement fund, our housing millage, our veterans, our senior millage, our 911, for example, you're talking millages that are anywhere from 4 million to 10 million. Each of these projections, that revenue's already come in, and it's still going to trickle in a little bit. But each of those projections are 99.5+%, very accurate. So for example, the housing millage might be at $9 million and they've collected $9,006,000. So this methodology is very accurate. So this is going to lead us to this fall, right? When we collect the operating 26 revenue. So as we look at the 27 budget, Rod has already reached out to Matt Hansen prior to his retirement and now with new director Joe Arvello, and has captured the latest equalization report and plugged that in, that data, to give us more of a trend. So when we look at the property tax with this assessment, that is a very high level calculation. What that shows is it's about $800,000 increase. Okay. And so that's what I wanted to start off with. Vice Chair Taylor, I see you have a question.
I've got to stop you there. When have we ever received a 1.6% increase in our property taxes? Every year it's between, I mean, in previous years, when the first 14 years or so I was on the commission, it was always, we're projecting 3% or 3.5% or 3%. It was always that. It was never any apportionment reports. They just said 3% or 3.5%. And we get anywhere from 5 to some years we get 7 or 8. This one is projecting, and I'll get to the investment income later, but this one is projecting like a 1.6% increase in our property tax from last year to this year. Is that saying that we're only probably when June of next year, when our apportionment comes out, that our equalization report comes out, that it's only going to have a 1.6% growth in all of our property taxes?
The most recent report, so that would be for the next year cycle under this methodology. So so we would have to wait to see what that lands at. But this is, again, the methodology that we've transitioned to, so we could remove ourselves from the surplus days of prior experience. And so this was a bit more aggressive, but more accurate too. So that would be my only comment, is if we want to revisit this methodology, and we're very happy to do that, right? To have a deeper discussion with the 27 calculation, if that is the direction that administration of the board would like to see. Okay.
I will just say, if we get only a 1.6% increase in our property taxes, we are in a recession, a serious recession. That is not, that's really not good news. 1.6%, I don't think we've gotten that low of an increase in the last 15 or 20 years, at least since I've been on the board. It's always been higher than that. But I mean, I'm happy to look at how they got there. But predicting a 1.6% increase in our equalization report from next year, that's scary. I'll just throw that out there. That's the lowest we've had in about 25 years. Usually we're getting anywhere from, on the low side, 3.3, 3.5. On the high side, 8. If you go back to history of the last 20 years of what we've received in the last 20 equalization reports, I don't think you'll find 1.6 anywhere, even after the 2008 crash, because you smooth it for 5 years. So just putting that out there, that's some really scary numbers.
Yeah. So with that being said, sir, respectfully, I'm definitely going to go back with Mr. Taylor and revisit this and get real more robust conversation and provide more detail for that. So we do feel, and the board feels, more informative with the circumstance. Correct. So property tax, moving on from that, if I may. So let's look at marijuana tax. We kind of highlighted that earlier. That's gone down about $500,000. So we are definitely going to adjust that accordingly. Moving on to convention facility tax, the alcohol tax. This is a fixed amount from the state of Michigan. We can see there's a slight decrease from the state level, about $7,400. The state does update on the state's treasury website, this information. So we're consistently reviewing it in conjunction with administration to see if there's any updates. And we're always going to move forward with the latest information, right? If state revenue sharing, that follows the same suit. We can see there's a slight increase of that, $800 at this point. So again, those are two that we just kind of monitor and we just keep up to date as we navigate through the budget process. We can bring that forward.
Director Post, Vice Chair Pro Tem, you have a question?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Post. I appreciate your conservative thinking on this. You indicated the convention and facilities and alcohol taxes and about a decrease in there. Is that been I'm not seeing that really as a trend from the last 3 or 4 years. Again, it kind of goes back to Vice Chair Taylor's comment about the property tax. It's not a big amount, but it's still an amount. And all these things obviously add up. And it does obviously concern us so that we can provide the services to our citizens that we've been providing. And it looks like these decreases could impact that severely, but as we get in, as I'm sure you're going to share with us on the revenue side, but thank you for, I'm just kind of curious as to why we're seeing a decrease in that. Less people buying alcohol and less people going to the hotels and motels. How will that impact our new convention center thing that we're working on now?
Go ahead, Administrator.
Thank you, Chair. Looking from 23, when it comes to the convention facility and alcohol tax, you actually do see a decrease. So, there was a significant increase in the consumers' cost of alcohol, and you saw that trend across the country. I just wanted to add that point. And the same thing which you saw, the impact of cost, as Vice Chair talked about for marijuana. So those were from 26 performance. We have to take that into account. And when the state's revenue sharing remains flat, for us, it's really a cut just due to inflation of our own cost. So the rate of property tax increase, not to go back to that particular point, but for the difference between 23 and 24 was not that great either. So we've seen this variance. The jump that we had from 24 to 25 to 26 was significant, but from the year of 23 to 24, in 23 it was 49,200,000 roughly, and then in 24 it was 51 million. So it has happened in the county's history, more modest increases, but we were also able to realize higher than projected investment revenue. And so really looking at our performance, as Vice Chair said, hey, we can ride that for a little bit, but that's what's informing at least my side of the house, the conservative nature, right? Maintain the focus and the priorities that the board laid forth, and just be positioned for when there is a rebound, and consistently check these revenue sources and adjust. So our task is clear, is to get to that balanced budget, but consistently review our expenditures and revenues, and then afford the ability to make some changes as new information comes forth. And we're doing that currently as we get to the budget process. So Ryan?
Yeah, to build off of Vice Chair, go ahead. Sorry.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yes, and I appreciate
Through the chair, gentlemen. So yes, go ahead, Vice Chair Pro Tem. It's okay. Thank you. You're okay.
Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate that. And I want to continue a conservative look because it will impact the many programs that we do work on to serve the community. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Director.
You're welcome. And just to reiterate, with both the convention facility alcohol tax as well as the state revenue sharing, when we begin the budget process about every year, That's one of the first things we do. So we're consistently every month going to Treasury's website, and we just take the information that they have available for all counties, all municipalities, and throughout the entire process, we'll continuously monitor that. And when we do recognize any changes, we just elevate those to the board through administration in the budget process at that time. Moving on to investment income.
I have another question for
Oops,
Vice
sorry.
Chair.
Sorry, I just gonna go really quick to before the cannabis tax. I think you're still, as I said, I think you're underestimating the property tax. I think you're overestimating the cannabis tax. I think that's going to be closer to about 1.5, 1.6 million. That trend of a reduction from 2024 to 2025 will continue. Most people in the industry think it will as the price drops. It's not a lower amount in sales, it's just a lower amount of that tax collection that will be there. That's pretty high. On the property taxes from 23 to 24, you had about 5.1% growth. You had 5% from 24 to 25. From 25 to 26, you had close to 7. And we're predicting from 26 to 27, a 1.3. So that's the boom. We're getting anywhere from 3 to 5, 3 to 5, 4, 5% is like on the low side. And then it drops to 1.3. I think that some of that, a lot of that will be offset by the overestimation on the cannabis tax. But I think, and then the investment income, you were going to talk about that as well. But I think we've got one more good year in the 5 millions. And then we're going to be back down to the appropriate 3.8. But like I said, I'm not going to advocate that we use that additional money for ongoing expenditures. But I do strongly feel that there'll be more than that for one-time money for that investment income.
Director?
So the investment income, no, I think I do agree with you on that. I think that there was a reduction recommended from the Chief Deputy Treasurer. I do think looking at the trends, that is an area we can definitely adjust, maybe from 1.4.
Just to add
ahead,
just a little context for that too. This is also reflective of a policy change. So this is not necessarily the full investment power of the county being reflected in this revenue. So I just want to make sure that the context behind the 4.6 million, that is the impact of segregating the investment funds to, okay, so yeah, I think correct. So if there was an adjustment made in that end, we would probably, kind of looking at past performances, maybe 1 million, maybe 1.5 million that could go back to that number with a potential policy change. So that's a discussion at a later time. But there are hence, while it looks tight, there are opportunities. There are windows here. There are windows here.
Thank you for that perspective, Administrator.
Yeah. So with then moving on to the sheriff police contract revenue, this was an area that I would say over the past year, right, we've really strengthened the relationship with the sheriff's office. Myself in particular, I've had the pleasure of going over there every Friday from the months of February to probably April and working with that team. I had a great time with them, and I respect tremendously what they do, and they respect tremendously what I do, and I think we formed a great relationship. So as we continue to build on that relationship, we've assessed the revenue for the police contracts, and we've presented our recommendations to them. They support them. We're going to move forward with that. So I think where we're at today, before I hand it back over to Interim Administrator Cole, is we will definitely go back and we will work with Maine to revisit those. We will point out the trends you pointed out, right? About 3 to 5% for the property tax. We'll revisit that for sure. The marijuana tax, I think we can talk to administration about that and make a reduction there as well. The investment income, I think we'll also follow that same suit. And then I look forward to personally, along with Interim Administrator Cole, to continue these discussions throughout the next board meetings.
Thank you, Interim Administrator.
The report that the board has in front of you has some options in terms of how you would want for us to proceed in terms of a conservative approach, how we would want to take this information and use that as a basis. But I think we've received some direction from Vice Chair. I hear and lift that up with that additional work from Maynard. We would come back and really see if there's some adjustments. And we would also then begin to talk about the expenditures. So today was about revenues. Next meeting, we were going to focus on expenditures. So we'll just combine a little bit of that. We won't spend a lot of time on the revenues. We'll talk about those expenditures leading into the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further from other commissioners? Vice Chair?
Really quick, I mean, it may sound like I'm not happy, but I'm really happy right now because I love getting down into this sort of detail, and I think it's extremely important that we do, and I appreciate the opportunity. If I sound crass on there, if like I'm going at, I'm just spewing what comes into my head. So there's no personal animosity, and I really greatly appreciate the work that you guys do. So.
This is an ongoing collaboration with the board and our administrative team, and I think we all appreciate that of each other. Commissioner Gisler.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, question for you, Ryan. The chap who you were working with and who did a lot of number crunching, his last name was Taylor, as I understand. Is he any relation to our Vice Chair?
I would have to defer to Vice Chair Taylor.
Vice Chair Pro Tem.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Administrator. I agree with what you're saying, and I like being a little on the conservative side. And John, I really appreciate this. I'm gonna tape these babies right up all over the place. So priorities, priorities, priority. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. All right. I think that moves us to our next item. Council, my understanding you'd like to have later discussion on the draft amendments to the bylaws. Does that apply also to the next item, the first reading, establishing?
No, ma'am, it does not.
Okay.
Madam Clerk Place was kind enough to review the board and make some recommendations. Unfortunately, because of the election schedule and then my vacation schedule, and now she's on vacation, we haven't met to discuss some of the final points. So I would like to do that before I massage them into the draft, but it will be provided timely.
Okay, thank you very
Madam
much,
Chair.
Council. All right, which doesn't preclude us from going forward with the next item. It does relate to the revision of the bylaws, but this will be a first reading of an amendment to create the Finance and Administration Committee. Are there any questions from the commissioners? I think just an overall update, to the community, and thanks to Vice Chair for his ongoing advocacy here. It's just establishes an ongoing committee that consists of at least 5 of the commissioners. So we have just an ongoing, more in-depth discussion on the financial position of the county, so that we're sort of stewarding forward as we face changing financial conditions, long-term capital needs, that we're really digging into that into more depth. And it provides administration an opportunity to help further educate and build the expertise of the board as the fiduciary of the organization to do that effectively. Any other questions or comments? All right, Vice Chair.
I was just giving my thumbs up. I think this is well overdone. This is in best practices with other counties and big organizations throughout the state. And Ryan will do an excellent, Director Post will do an excellent job with this. And I look forward to going back and forth at these committee meetings as well.
I am so sure he looks forward to that as well. All right. Thank you for that. Let's say we'll go to item 8. We have no closed sessions at this time. All right. With that, we are now adjourned.